Hello and welcome to What the F Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditas. Let's get to it. It's Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. Welcome to day 133. Joe Biden issued a presidential proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month, saying that he will not rest until full equality for LGBTQ Americans is finally achieved and codified into law. The White House also noted that after 4 years of relentless attacks on LGBTQ rights, the Biden-Harris administration has taken historic actions to accelerate the march toward full LGBTQ equality. On his first day in office, Biden signed an executive order directing federal agencies to protect LGBTQ people under federal laws which prohibit discrimination based on sex. Biden also reversed the Trump administration's ban on transgender people openly enlisting and serving in the military and issued an executive order expanding Title IX protections to LGBTQ students, protecting them from discrimination. Meanwhile, the Biden administration suspended oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, undoing a move made by the Trump administration last year. The Interior Department said a review of the Trump administration's leasing program in the wildlife refuge found multiple legal deficiencies, including insufficient analysis required by environmental laws and a failure to assess alternatives. The step comes just days after the Justice Department defended another drilling project on Alaska's North Slope, underscoring the balancing act the new administration aims to strike as it slows fossil fuel development on public lands. While Biden has paused new federal oil and gas leasing and pledged to drastically cut the nation's greenhouse gas emissions, he's taken a much more cautious approach when it comes to most oil and gas operations that were approved under his predecessor. Meanwhile, in Texas, Democrats abandoned the State House floor late Sunday night to block a vote on one of the most restrictive voting bills in the nation. Republicans faced a midnight deadline to approve the measure, which would have made it harder to vote by mail, limited early voting hours, empowered partisan poll watchers, and made it easier to overturn election results. Democrats staged the walkout with an hour left for the legislature to approve the bill, leaving the House without the quorum needed to take a vote. Republican Governor Greg Abbott said he would order a special legislative session to revive the measure. Biden called the restrictive voting bill un-American and an assault on democracy. Governor Abbott also threatened to defund the state legislature in retaliation for the Democrats' staged walkout. Abbott tweeted, "No pay for those who abandon their responsibilities," and pledged to veto the section of the state budget that funds the legislative branch. "Stay tuned," he added. Abbott has until June 20th to carry out the veto. Meanwhile, more than 100 scholars of democracy warned that our entire democracy is now at risk as a result of Republican-led states proposing or implementing radical changes to election laws. The public statement of concern calls on Senate Democrats to reform or kill the filibuster in order to pass the For the People Act, which has already passed in the House. Joe Manchin has repeatedly pledged to protect the filibuster and has refused to sign on to the voting rights bill, calling the legislation too darn broad and partisan. The scholars conclude their statement saying, "History will judge what we do at this moment." Moving on, the Justice Department asked a federal judge to dismiss lawsuits against Trump, former Attorney General William Barr, and other officials for using U.S. military and police to violently clear out protesters from Lafayette Square last June, in order to allow Trump to hold a Bible up in front of St. John's Church for photographs to dispel the notion that he was weak for hiding in a bunker. Justice Department lawyers argued that the lawsuits from the ACLU, Black Lives Matter, and other civil liberty groups, as well as individual protesters, should be dismissed because the Biden administration does not share Trump's hostility toward George Floyd and the racial justice movement. An attorney for the D.C. police said in court that the department used tear gas on protesters around Lafayette Square Park last June, the first time MPD has admitted that tear gas was used on peaceful protesters. Meanwhile, the Justice Department added 4 new defendants to the federal criminal conspiracy case against the Oath Keepers, a far-right extremist group that participated in the pro-Trump riot on January 6th at the Capitol. And finally, Trump has reportedly been telling confidants that he expects to be reinstated as president by August as a result of ongoing election audits in states like Arizona and Georgia. At a QAnon conference, Trump's first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, called for a Myanmar-style military coup in the United States, later claiming that he did not endorse a coup despite video of him supporting the idea and saying it should happen here. Trump pardoned Flynn in November after Trump lost the election. Sidney Powell, the attorney who's being sued for $1.3 billion by Dominion Voting Systems for defamation over her claims that the company rigged the elections against Trump, told conference attendees that Trump can simply be reinstated, despite there being no legal or constitutional remedy to overturn election results that have been certified by Congress. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.